Good morning, my Real News Midday TV family. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, and I'm wishing for everyone a wonderful and a productive day. And in the news this morning for October 30, 2023, Denham Town residents believe a pastor's intercession last week prevented death in Sunday morning gun attack. Some residents of Denham Town in Kingston believe that prayers from a pastor last week reduced the impact of an early morning gun attack on Wellington Street on Sunday, in which one man was shot and injured. It was just last week that the pastor came and warned us. Look what happened now, one resident told the news in the community on Sunday. Another resident confirmed that a preacher had in fact warned them that blood would be spilled in the community based on a vision he had. The resident believed that if the pastor had not prayed in the space, people would have died. Last week, the pastor youth prophesied that 3 men would die on the one-away corner and 3 from the Scream Gang. It was the prayer that him come pray mash it up. Me strongly believe that because a whole lot of prediction him make that I see fulfill, the resident said. The news sought to get a comment from the Kingston West police on the incident but was unsuccessful. However, residents said that the shooting occurred between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. when gunmen in a motor vehicle opened fire on people who were already up and about doing their Sunday morning chores. According to the residents, one man was shot at least 3 times and was taken to hospital where he is being treated. Members of the Jamaica Defense Force who are posted in the community were said to have challenged the gunmen, but they escaped. Despite attempts by the security forces and the social groups to maintain peace in the community, gang activity and the shootings are rampant. From January 1 to September 30 this year, the Kingston West Police Division, which has a jurisdiction over Denham Town, reported 61 murders. It is unclear how many of the 61 murders were committed in Denham Town, but residents shared that the shootings, even with high-powered rifles, happened from time to time. During the news visit to the community a few hours after the incident, tension was obvious, and while some residents refused to speak on the shooting, others were adamant that the senseless and the spontaneous acts of violence make their lives miserable. Police yellow tape cordoned off the scene of the attack, which spanned more than 50 meters, beginning just below the Denham Town Health Center down to North Street. I am scared. Nobody wants to get shot or die. I was in my house and I heard a lot of explosions. We believe it was Tivoli man come up in a van, come fire shot. Nothing is happening in Denham Town more than Tivoli man them always come fire shots up here. The man who got shot is not from around here. People know him, but he doesn't live here, one female resident said. The gunmen were driving in a van, and they also fired at police and soldiers. The place is tense. You know, see how the place look? Overall, certain people can't go down the road, and certain people cannot come up the road. I don't know what really caused the incident this morning, but overall, I just want this war to done, because it doesn't make sense. This war is going on a long time. I don't see what they're warring for. People have to lock up their shops early. The war is mashing up the place, the frustrated resident added. Another female resident said that things are so bad that even a football competition that was being held to help maintain peace was suspended. All the peace football competition with all of the different corners stopped because of the violence that started back in the community. A lady came out to empty her rubbish and almost got shot by gunmen who were wearing vests in the black Toyota Voxy. This is a turf war going on in the community for a long time now, between Denham Town and Tivoli. Men want to run the community, she claimed. Men up here don't want but the dodo system. They want to live by themselves without anybody telling them what to do. Her reference was to the days when now incarcerated Tivoli Gardens strongman Christopher Dudu's Coke held the sway over larger suites of West Kingston. This morning after 6 o'clock, the black Voxy pop up on Wellington Street and Tulip Lane and start lick pure shot. The man got 2 shots in him back. I am calling for peace, love and unity. The infant school is just right there beside the clinic. People are afraid to go to the Denham Town Health Center because nobody wants to get shot. We all are in fear. It cannot continue like this, the angry resident said. One elderly woman told the news that she was awakened by the loud explosions Sunday morning and was so traumatized that she cancelled all plans to venture out on the road. From morning I want to go up the road and I am afraid. Too much gunshot. It look like it's not going to stop. If the soldiers are not here, I don't come out on the road. As them gone, me gone in, she said. The place has to be cleaned up properly. I am not picking any sides. Both up the road and down the road need to stop. I am not telling a lie. I'm afraid. You're afraid to send all your pitney to school. You wouldn't believe the amount of gunshot that wake me up this morning. Lots of people were awakened by the gunshots. Oh God, man. What about the people at the Golden Age home in the community? Them supposed to traumatize because a pure elder up there. If me get scared, can you imagine them who can move up and down? She said. Jamaica supports a resolution on Gaza truce despite a missing UNGA vote, says Johnson Smith. Minister of Foreign Affairs Kamina Johnson-Smith says while Jamaica was absent from Friday's United Nations General Assembly vote on a resolution calling for a humanitarian truce in Gaza, it supports the resolution. Johnson-Smith had previously explained Jamaica's absence, saying that deliberations were still taking place when the vote was finalized. However, the government has been criticized for missing the vote, with the opposition describing the situation as a new low in the Jamaica's foreign policy history. In a media release on Sunday evening, Johnson-Smith said Jamaica's failure to vote on the resolution was not a shift in its stance on human rights. She further stated that Jamaica, as a chair of the CARICOM Caucus of Ambassadors at the United Nations, was actively engaged in discussions concerning the Jordanian resolution and not only collaborated on the CARICOM statement but led its drafting. I appreciate the concerns raised by those who feel that Jamaica not having voted in the 10th UN Emergency Special Session last Friday suggests a shift in our stance on international human rights. I assure you that is not the case. The situation in the Middle East demands a unified global voice against the human rights violations while respecting states' rights to self-defense within the parameters of international law. Jamaica, as the chair of the CARICOM Caucus of Ambassadors at the UN, was actively engaged in discussions concerning the Jordanian resolution and not only collaborated on the CARICOM statement but led its drafting. This statement was delivered by our permanent representative, Ambassador Wallace, from the podium in the General Assembly during the debate on the issue prior to the vote. I shared this statement on social media, hoping it would provide clarity on Jamaica's position given its clear alignment and the support of the Jordanian resolution. While a technical cross in communication led to Jamaica's representative not voting, our statement on the UN General Assembly floor on behalf of all CARICOM member states unequivocally supports a peaceful resolution of the conflict, humanitarian aid for victims of war, and the release of hostages. Jamaica's foreign policy unquestionably rests on robust principles and domestic values, which guide our stance in an increasingly dynamic and complex global landscape. Central Westmoreland MP calls for speedy regularization of squatters in parish. George Wright, the self-proclaimed independent member of Parliament for Westmoreland Central, is urging Prime Minister Andrew Holness to accelerate the regularization of squatter communities in the parish in order to enable access to additional lands on which people may live a comfortable life in their own houses. According to the first-term MP, the demand for affordable housing is now higher than ever. I am going to call on the Prime Minister to make more land available to build more houses and to continue the mission of putting more hardworking Jamaicans in their own homes, Wright added. He noted that every day his constituents have called on him seeking out land to purchase so they can build their homes. On this note, I will ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, to fast-track the regularization of the informal settlements in Westmoreland so that citizens can get the infrastructure they need to be comfortable in their humble homes, Wright pleaded. He was speaking during a National Housing Trust handover ceremony for 32 new housing solutions to Shrewsbury Housing Development beneficiaries in Petersfield, Westmoreland, by Holness recently. The project was completed as part of the NHD's Labor and Small Materials program. The homes we stand before today are not just blocks and steel. They represent the fulfillment of a promise made by this government to build Jamaica. Today we can witness the reality of affordable housing, Wright opined. He said these homes are not just structures, but are becoming the cradles where the bonds of family and community will grow together. Many of us come from far away to find a job, and when we do find the job, we can't find a place close enough to call home, Wright stated. 20% of Jamaica's population live in squatter settlements, which has been defined as the illegally occupied land or buildings. The issue of informal settlements has remained a perennial problem for decades, despite the efforts by successive governments to arrest the problem. According to the Squatter Management Unit, based in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, there are approximately 700 informal settlements spread across Jamaica that serve as melting pots of Jamaica's most sinister social, political, and economic ills. Often, these communities are also hotbeds for crime. Problem parishes like Westmoreland are now faced with. The government recently announced yet another roadmap to address informal settlements, pockets of which are located in the 14 parishes across the island. So far, aggressive steps are now underway to acquire properties to regularize close to 1,000 households in the first instance in Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. James.